This video is my part 3 on the Figma design agent in the native canvas. I want to show you why in the last 1.5 weeks since it was actually released in beta, it's become one of my favorite AI tools. Today, my focus is specifically going to be real enterprise design workflows with a real enterprise design system. I'm going to show you use cases starting from simplest to more complex, creating buttons, cards, empty states, forms, tables, everything using my actual design system. The agent was capable of attending to so many complex workflows rather than going to use Claude somewhere else like Claude Desktop and coming back to Figma with the Figma MCP. If your goal is to generate vector designs, you have requirements for an existing product with an existing design system, you're going to want to stick around for this. At the end, I'm also going to show you how I stress tested it for creating a design system from scratch. I had it build my variables, starting with colors, primitives, semantics. I created a dark mode as well. And then I started with typography styles and had it move to typography variables. So I'm going to walk you through my prompts from the simplest to the more complex one, how I tested if the agent is actually able to understand and create workflows for me. Mind you, if this is your first video on the Figma design agent, I highly recommend that you watch my other two that I'm linking for you above. One starts with the basic, the second one tests the design agent in comparison with the Figma MCP and Claude. If you do have access to the agent, it will appear right here in your navigation. Currently, it's in beta. Now, the first thing I asked it to do is to create a primary button in the default state, then show all 5 variants of it: primary, secondary, tertiary, destructive, and ghost, in sizes small, medium, and large. And I asked it to arrange it in a 5.3 grid. As you can see, it did that exactly as I described it. And when I did that, I had my design system library attached. Do you see? If you hover on libraries, if you do have an attached library, you will see this green check mark. And I did have my main design system library attached. So it did reference that. And to show you this, if I were to select this, it actually used my design system library and created on top of it all those different variations, which is exactly what I wanted. It carried all the component properties that I wanted, which will allow me to change the style of this button or apply any other thing that I want to it. Let's start adding complexity. So I wanted to check token compliance. And I asked it to build a status card showing system uptime, title, value, trend indicator, timestamp. And I said use only design system tokens for color, spacing, and typography. And here you go. It did that. It did exactly that. It created this card. If you see here, any element that I select has the styles that were defined by my design system as well as the variables are fully defined. So it is respecting the token compliance. Even this is a tag status label component. I even tested creating a completely new card that doesn't exist in my design system, but that respects the primitives from my design system and uses all of them. And it did that exactly. You'll see it's using the button, it's using the text with the right styles and variables, an avatar. The next prompt was to create an empty state, leveraging my design system components. And it did that. It created an overlay. And if I go into each of these elements, it completely respected the typography, the variables, the button components, the spot illustration component. Same thing with forms. I asked it to create forms with different validation states, and I asked it to show 3 versions side by side: default, error state, password mismatch, and success states. Can you imagine like these repetitive tasks that would take us a long time to create, sometimes to document for your developers, or different things that are real scenarios? They're not necessarily fun, but they are things we have to do every day. And look how amazing it is at doing that. Next, I wanted to work with more complex components like tables. So I said, design a project management table, filter chips, search, bulk, action bar, 6 columns, owner avatar, status badge, 8 rows of realistic data, and pagination footer. And it used exactly everything from the library, including our multi-select top bar. And I don't know if I prompted further there, but it gave me two other variations of it with the table elements selected. It did a really good job of giving me variations of this table. I know this stuff is not necessarily revolutionary or fun, but it is the real work where a designer in an enterprise would actually want to use AI because it's not creative, because it's functional, and because speed is super significant. Rather than putting a table together myself, it would be nice if I can get started from here and then go refine and do the design thinking and orchestration that allows me to prioritize the jobs to be done that my users need to do. Next, I went deeper to test it for something more complex. So according to Claude, these full screen texts is where MCP generally fails, but the native design agent could do well. So I asked it to build an admin dashboard with a left nav, 6 items, top bar, 4 KPI cards, and a recent activity list on the right. And I said use only design system components and tokens. And by the way, this is a great example. Just these prompts that I'm sharing with you here. These are the kind of prompts that you want to use when speaking with AI. And if you're using Claude Desktop on the side, Claude would be a fantastic assistant to help you refine how you would describe these prompts to make them very accurate and to get good results. Because the prompt is so simple, so specific and exact, so was the result. If you look at this dashboard, it did exactly what I asked it. 4 KPI cards. If I look at each one of them, the cards were created from scratch. Even though so many elements on the screen are completely new, they don't necessarily exist in my design system. Every sub-component that was used completely respected my color variables as well as my text variables. Wherever possible, my actual components were used, like the secondary button or the line button in this case. I would say this is a very decent place to get started, and it is leveraging my design system. When it came to creating a settings page, the agent was not as creative, so it used form elements from my design system. It knows my variables. It is good at following instructions. Now, when it comes to creativity, I'm not sure it's there. The next thing that I tested is a multi-step flow on the canvas. So I said, lay out a 4-step onboarding flow horizontally. Use a stepper component at the top of each frame and the S form field throughout. And this is what it did. It definitely is using my stepper, and it used the subcomponents to build the stepper, which is great. And what is worth highlighting here, it's fully aware of which part of the workflow to make active. So in the case of the welcome page, it made step 1 active. Look at that. It shows welcome is completed here, and we are in profile page 2. And once again, it was completely true to my design system, using only variables and components from the design system. It created everything in proper auto layout the way I would have myself. This is really fantastic. This is the complete workflow, and it does match my expectations. And it respected the stepper active states and completed states throughout. This is so nice to see that even for a complex workflow, it's able to respect my requirements. Next, I wanted to stress test it, and Claude said this would be an area where the agent would struggle, maybe gracefully. And for some weird reason, Claude was right, because the first time I did this prompt, this is what I got. I asked it to create a dashboard and then responsively change it to be for tablet and mobile. And the first time it did that, do you see how all the elements are all over the place? So this is the prompt. It was design the same pricing page at desktop 1440, tablet 768, and mobile 375 pixel. 3 tiers, feature comparison, FAQ section. So when it first struggled and gave me this, I went back to the same chat and I said, fix the responsive design for the responsive screens. Very bad prompt actually, but it still got the point and it did a much better job. Do you see the second iteration of the same thing in spite of my very bad prompt? It understood and it was able to arrange it responsively, which is very nice to see because the goal of testing here was the ability of the agent to adjust screens to be responsive. And the responsive parts were way better. Like it definitely did a good job for the tablet as well as for mobile. Not everything is perfect. There's a lot of adjustments, but this is what we're talking about. You have a fantastic starting point so you can focus on what actually matters. So I would say for responsiveness, it did okay, but like Claude anticipated, there was a bit of a struggle to get there. Now, this addresses a lot of the things that you may need to do on a daily basis. You're working with an existing feature, you've attached your design system library just like I showed you. If you missed that before, it's with this plus button. And by the way, Figma is working on adding the ability to add either more images or different file types right here in addition to the libraries. But this is how you can add your libraries, and I've shown you that in other videos. You can manage libraries, you can add more libraries to your actual prompt. So you're working with your design system. And this will allow you to get started from anything. So if your goal is vector output, if you're just elaborating on an existing feature, definitely the Figma Design Agent has been fantastic for me. And I hope many of you already have it by now and you can share with me more how you're using it. Now, lastly, I wanted to test if I'm able to create a completely designed system from scratch with the Figma Design Agent because I've shown you before how to do that with Claude and Figma MCP as well as Codex and Figma MCP, and we were able to achieve good results. So I love, by the way, how we can see our chats separately because I can walk you back here and show you that my first prompt was to give it a certain set of colors as primary and secondary neutrals, and I gave it a set of typography, and I said, get started by creating these variables and text styles. And here you go. The result of the first thing was it creating a set of primitive colors for me. It did that all by itself with very minimal specification from my side. And then it created semantic colors. So it followed the right structure that you would follow in a design system. Then in my second prompt, I actually prompted it to create a dark mode, and it went ahead and did that. It also started by creating text styles. I had all these text styles here that were created as styles, but then I wanted to see if it's able to transform the styles into variables. So I specifically prompted it to replace all the text styles with text variables, and it did that, which is a huge relief because I don't know if those of you who are following my other videos, at one point we were testing and we realized that LLMs do a better job understanding variables than text styles. So I wanted to see, is the Figma Design Agent able to convert this? And it kind of did. Here you can see I have text variables. It broke them down into displays, header 1, header 2, header 3, body, large, small, and medium, and captions. If I were to break this down in the file, like for example, if we select this, you can see with typography variables in Figma, there is more than one that is applied. There's a typography family variable, typography weight variable, and both of them are applied. And this is such an incredible task to automate to AI because, yeah, I would have to watch a whole tutorial to know how to create my typography variables more accurately. And the agent already has that knowledge and it did it on my behalf. Lastly, I asked it to create a foundational set of components for my design system that I can get started with. Started with buttons, all these things. And once again, for my prompt, I asked Claude for help to format my prompt, and it did a fantastic job because the results are exactly what I want. I highly recommend that you don't just wing it with prompts. Get some help with Claude or any LLM that you're using and tell it that you're specifically wanting to prompt the Figma native design agent because it does understand that technology. And let me show you what it created. We have a component foundation. It created buttons, icon buttons, text input, text area, drop downs, checkboxes, radio buttons, toggle switches, badges, alert banners, chips, avatars, cards, dialogues, navigation. Guys, this is incredibly great. Imagine if you're a team that doesn't have a design system today. This is a fantastic place to get started. Will it be perfect? No, but that's your job to ensure the quality, to ensure everything is accurate. But the more details you give it in a prompt, the more you're able to do this. And there you have it. That's why in the last 1.5 weeks since this product have come into beta, I've been spending more time back in Figma itself. Because if my goal is vector work, like many of my designers on my teams have told me, they don't want to go to Claude Desktop to prompt over there and then come back to Figma. The Figma MCP was fantastic when it was the only way for us to bring Claude into Figma. But now that Claude exists on my native canvas, I definitely want to use it right here without having to go anywhere. It has a fantastic understanding of the Figma canvas, of the Figma rules, and it's able to follow and enable that. Now, mind you, I have not stopped using the Figma MCP with Claude, but I'm using them for the vibe to code scenarios where I'm generating interactive designs, where I start with a Figma design, give a prompt, and generate something that's interactive that I can take further to user testing. What I'm demoing to you here is if vector output is what you're actually wanting. You're working on a feature, you want to add a quick enhancement, the design agent would be fantastic for you. But do not stop using Figma and Claude MCP to make your designs interactive, like I've shown you how to do that many times. I'm linking for you to other videos if this is your first time finding my channel. I hope this walkthrough was useful. Tell me, what else do you want to use the agent for? Have you gotten access to it? What do you want to learn next? And I'm happy to explore it deeper and share it with you. Thank you so much for being part of my community, and let's keep growing together.